You're listening to the Parents of Hardworking Teens podcast, episode 122, how to help your teen nail their new year group and have them feel confident and in control, know exactly what's expected, and achieve the results that really match their effort without all the guesswork or just hoping that they're going to figure it out along the way. I'm Katie Jones, and with over 15 years in education as an award-winning high school teacher, international external examiner, and as a study coach, I've helped thousands of students skyrocket their results and confidence. And this podcast is where I share all my insights, tactics, and tips with you, the parent, so you can help your hardworking teen get happy, smart, and successful in their study, and have you both enjoy the journey along the way. This is the Parents of Hardworking Teens podcast. Hey VIPs, I hope you and your teens are doing fantastic and that 2025 is getting off to a great start for you. I will admit that my year has started off a little kind of overwhelming. I've got a whole smorgasbord of ideas and plans, and some are ideas and not yet plans, and some are plans but have become a bit loose, as I like to do. I sometimes like to tweak or adjust a said plan, which then creates a whole plan required to just adjust the plan. Anyway, my tactic is right now just to approach one project, one plan at a time. I do normally like to have a kind of good long-term plan, but right now this is the only way I'm managing to keep my brain calm at the moment. And step one, or plan number one for the year, has been a webinar that I just ran yesterday for students and their parents called Nail Your New Year Group. Obviously aimed right now more at those in the Southern Hemisphere who are just starting not just a new term or a new year, but a whole new year group in their schooling. And I know that everyone in the Northern Hemisphere are like a third or so way through the year, and so you can simply remove the word new from the title and use everything that I'm sharing as a way to help your teen meet the demands of the year group that they are in right now as they are really getting into the thick of it. So if you or your teen could use a plan to help them nail their year group in 2025 and want some structured, clear, non-overwhelming ways to do that, then I have got a summary here for you of the main points that I covered in the webinar. And if you would like more on this, more tips, see the real life examples in detail, and you are listening to this as the episode drops, then you can go watch the full version, the webinar replay, anytime up to 9 p.m. AEST on Monday, the 3rd of February, 2025. It is at www.greattransformation.com/new. So here you go, how to have your teen nail their brackets new year group. Welcome to this webinar, Nail Your New Year Group. This is all about achieving best possible results with a lot more confidence, less of the stress, and making sure that students have a great life balance, because what I'm hearing a lot is how much work and effort and time study is taking up, and I want to do a lot to be able to help out with that. So here's a few quick notes to make sure you get the most out of this. Number one, you are going to want to take a lot of notes. So if you come with a little scrap of paper or a post-it block, that is not going to be enough. Go get yourself some paper. If you've got the action guide, that is perfect. Okay. In case you miss anything, I am going to send out the replay of this webinar tomorrow to all registrants. Okay, so don't worry if you do miss something. You can definitely go back and find that on the recording, but pay attention. If you haven't been with me for a little while, you'll know that I speak pretty fast, okay? And I make no apologies for that. I've got a lot that I want to help you out with. So here's what we're going to cover this evening. 3 little known but big impact ways that you can level up or you can help your team level up. So they're tackling tasks with clarity and confidence. You're thriving rather than just surviving. I hear so many students, especially those that are maybe going into their final year, going, oh my goodness, if we could just get through this year, and parents who their biggest hope is we just get through this unscathed. I want it to be better than that. And I want students achieving
their best possible, best ever grades, but doing it so that you and your parent or you and your team actually get to enjoy the journey along the way. So while we're here, I'm also going to share with you what this isn't, so that you're very clear about where we're going with this and where we're not. And this is going to include some really important reasons why. So please pay attention. Okay, please pay attention to this part. I am not going to be sharing things like generic advice like creating a study timetable. And I'll tell you why, okay? Because I see so many students who are committed and organized and want to feel like they're in control of their study, making study timetables. I see schools sometimes saying things like, oh, students should be spending X number of hours per evening or per week doing independent study or homework. But here's what I see. And there's anything integrally wrong with that advice, but it certainly isn't a surefire way to success. And I think there are many other factors that are much more important than just the number of hours or what schedule we've got stuck on the wall. Because here's what I see. And tell me in the chat, put a yes if you see this and you get this as well. If it was as simple as time spent on a task or time spent studying correlated perfectly to the result, then wouldn't we just all be tempted to put in the exact right amount of time? And isn't it true that we see some students spending huge amounts of time, and this might have happened to you, put in me, if this has happened to you or your team, okay? So I want to see a yes if you get what I'm saying here, and you kind of go, yeah, this is a thing, and put in me if you've seen this happen to you. That maybe you've been spending, you're down in this lower right-hand area. You're spending loads of time, but the result is not coming out where you want it to, where you think it should, where you would have predicted it would have, or in a way that matches all of that time and effort that was put in. And on the other hand, we see other students that maybe aren't putting in as much time or effort, but they're still getting great results. Okay, it happens both ways. It is not a perfect correlation. So we can't be relying on study timetables and the number of hours that we're studying. And this could be good news or it could be bad news. Okay, yes, we've got lots of yeses. Good news, because it means that there's other things that we can do to influence this. That's the great news. The bad news is, okay, well, if it's not just amount of time, then what else is it? And that's what I want to fix up for you today. Okay, so please stay with me. I'm going to give you the exact factors and actions to take. This is not going to be about memorizing information. I know there's lots of things out there on how to memorize facts and using acronyms and visualization and all the rest of it. Here's why I don't ever, I never teach that. Now, I do talk about how to study in a way that means we process the information better. I do talk about active revision, but I'm not going to actually be talking about those this evening. But here's why I don't really believe that it's all about memorizing more information, because it is not about how much information we have. And I'm going to come to this in a second, okay? Stick with me. This is going to be the first sort of key or strategy that I'm going to share with you. This is not about having more information in our heads, because that, in my experience, is not the thing that is actually holding students back. It ties back into the amount of time spent. How much information we learn is not necessarily the thing that is holding you back. Okay, and I'll come to that in a lot more detail in a second. And this isn't going to be about how to get motivated, because we all know that we can put on a motivational YouTube video or our best soundtracks in order to get us G'd up in the moment. But that isn't the root cause. Again, in my experience, most students, whether they know and they will advertise that they want to do well, or whether it's just deep down they want to do well, but when we find ourselves unmotivated or procrastinating or putting something off and struggling to get started or getting partway through and struggling to finish, here's why it happens. In my experience, this is what I see happening. It's not because students are lazy. It's not because they can't be bothered. It's not because they're just putting it off. It's because of one of these three things. Whenever they're tackling a task, if we end up putting something off, it's usually because we're not sure exactly what we're supposed to be doing. We're not sure precisely how exactly to do it. So it might be, okay, well, what is actually expected? I had a student once who was just procrastinating over making summary notes, which sounded so basic. And we realized once I spoke with her, she was like, oh, I'm just not getting this done. Well, she didn't know really what the summary format was supposed to be, how long it was supposed to be. There was like 7 pages of notes she was supposed to summarize. So we were like, is the summary supposed to be a paragraph, a 1-page mind map? What exactly is it supposed to be? Okay, how are we then supposed to do it? If we're supposed to write an essay, great, we know that we want to have maybe 3 body paragraphs, introduction and conclusion, so we know the what. Do we truly know how to craft a strong thesis statement? Do we truly know how to analyze in the right amount of detail? Do we really know how to select and select, I would say, discerning quotes and evidence? And then, do we really believe it's going to pay off for us? This is a pretty simple one, right? But if your teen has previously been putting in lots and lots of effort, or if you're a student who's put in lots of time into something and it hasn't paid off, after a while, if that happens more than once or twice, we're probably going to start to doubt whether it's really worth putting in that amount of time and effort again, okay? So those are usually the 3 things, and it could be a combination, but there's usually at least one of those behind motivation procrastination. So this is not about how to get motivated. I will say it's about fixing one of those 3 things, and this webinar will definitely help with that. So instead, here's my promise to you. By the end of this webinar, here is what I will be sharing with you. You will understand the missing yet critical ingredient for sustainable study success. I'm going to share with you how to get it and the ways that you can use it. You're going to know the 3 subtly different ways that questions and tasks are going to be pitched and how you're going to respond to those on track every time, and give you the strategies to be able to do that. You're also going to be able to identify the exact word in any question that reveals exactly what is required. So you're not any longer getting the feedback like you haven't really answered the question, or add more detail. Because let me tell you, add more detail is not specific enough. And there are specific ways to give that detail without it being state more information. I'm going to talk about that in a little while. I'm going to also share with you how you can use open tasks, often with these big assignments, and have them work to your advantage and actually go further than just, meet the requirements, but actually create A-grade opportunities for yourself. I'm also at the end going to share an opportunity for you to be able to take all of this further with my help if you would like, so that parents, you don't have to be the middle person trying to convey all of this, and students, you can get full training if you choose. I'm also, like I said, going to stay on for Q&A, so you get the opportunity by being here live to be able to ask me any questions you like, so that you know exactly how best to move forwards. If you have anything that you are wondering about or curious about, or anything that comes up, I'm absolutely going to stay on for as long as it takes to answer everybody's questions, okay? Now, if you are here watching this on the replay, or you are here live and you think of a question afterwards, which always happens to me, afterwards I always think of the best questions, you can still email me. It's support@rocksolidstudy.com, so feel free to email anytime. Because here's what we probably already know. This is about more than just grades and results. That's the thing we seem to see and we seem to focus on and get showed up into report cards and final results. But here's what this really equates to and what really matters about this. It's about students' confidence. When students are not getting the results that match their effort or what they know to be their true ability, it dents our confidence because we become uncertain, we doubt ourselves, it influences future options. Now, some students already know what they want to do and they know what ATAR or what result or what grades and scores they need, but other students don't know and they just want to have maximum opportunities available. It's about realizing their potential. Realizing, so many parents, I will say, tell me like, I know that they're smart and I know that they can do X, Y, and Z, and they tell me this stuff and I can see it's there, but we're just not able to get that across and get the results. And I think that having our potential realized can do a huge amount for self-esteem and aspirations as well, and what we want to go on to do. It's also about that life balance. Like I said, it's about not overworking. Okay, yes, we need to still put in good amounts of work and work hard, etc. It's not going to come out of thin air, but we don't want to be overworking, and we want that reward for effort. Okay, nobody wants to keep putting in effort if there is no reward. So what I would love for you to tell me is which of these resonates with you the most right now, and you are allowed more than one, if you would like. I have a big thing around, it's not about time spent, it's about the outcome produced. If we can get something either learned or completed and to a standard that is where we want it and where it needs to be, and it's valuable and it's effective, and we can do that within 20 minutes instead of 2 hours, that's what it's all about. It's about having constrained time and what I call scheduling outcomes, not just, I'm going to do English study for 2 hours, not as effective. Okay. All right, we've got a lot of life balances, a lot of rewards for effort, a lot of confidence. And do you know what? We've actually, I mean, it's almost like I'm seeing the whole alphabet here. We've got a whole selection. Jody F, Grace C and R, Holly L and R, Helen R and L, F, R and P for Bonnie. Yeah, we're now we're getting into the real big combos. Viviana, I think you've got them all there. But this is right. Like, you're allowed to have all of them. You're allowed to want all of them. And this is what study can do, but it can also take away from. So I want more of it to come to you and your team. So here we are in terms of where education is at today. I'm sure for some of us, it feels like it's quite different to how it used to be. There are definitely some similarities and definitely some differences. But here's some of the things that I see overall. And just have a think and see if this is the same for you. Project-based learning and self-directed learning are much bigger than they were previously. So it's about research assignments, inquiry tasks, teamwork, having choice around what direction or what topic it is that they want to study and what sources that they use. And this is great. I absolutely believe this is great for building skills and building also the knowledge in a way that works for students. However, I'll get to a problem with it in a second. We've got more of these open-ended assignments and investigations, and we've got a lot more technology being used. Again, nothing wrong with it. The world of technology today, the students need to know how to use it, right? And they need to be proficient and they need to be trained in it. But what happens is we get to the end of the year, or we get to the end of a semester, we get to the whole end of our schooling, and so much of it comes down to exams. And I will say, even with the huge explosion of AI in terms of technology, instead of us we all sort of thought this was coming away from exams. I see so many schools and so many students telling me that they're going more towards that exam condition type assessment because schools aren't able to really keep up with the issues with trying to have generative AI create student submissions. So they're having more and more exam style assessments. So they've gone from working collaboratively, having open choice, having a non-time constrained, yes, they'll have a deadline, but they've got time to complete it, to being sat in an exam hall, not able to speak. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with this. I'm not criticizing exams, although I know there is a lot of criticism out there, but that's not what this is about. My point is the mismatch. What's going on in everyday schooling, and then what students are expected to perform well in, that often counts for 50% upwards of their final result. And I just want to bridge that gap in a way that is going to serve them for their assessments and their exams, and also serve them in their everyday study. And I'm going to share with you how that's going to go. Because here's what I want to share with you. This is going to be the not so secret, top secret, okay? Like, I will never share with you or with anyone anywhere anything that I'm not allowed to. So when I'm on a scrutiny panel or a writing panel, I'm not going to tell you what questions are coming up next year, okay? Here's what I can tell you. I can tell you exactly what question will not come up, ever. Hope you're racking your brains to think about what this might be. Here's what no exam question, no inquiry investigation is ever going to ask. Write everything you know about whatever the topic is. Think about it. That never happens, right? And yet, and here's another mismatch, the curriculum and syllabus is focused on subject content. When you look at a syllabus document, or you look at the curriculum, it's we need to cover this, we need to cover this, we need to cover this, we need to cover this. And schools and teachers' jobs is to teach that content. And again, it's not a criticism, it's an observation, and I want to help students with this, because what happens then is students are basically studying as if this were going to be the question. They're studying to try and build as much of that subject knowledge as they can, and in the belief that that is what's going to get them the marks that they want. However, this belief that knowledge is power, and that the more subject knowledge and subject content I can read and store in my head and memorize for my exams, that's not going to necessarily be enough to get the marks that we want. It's basically a myth in this case. So instead of the phrase knowledge is power being the thing that drives your teen study or your study, here's what I want to share instead. It's not knowledge. It's knowing how to put that knowledge across. So you do still need the knowledge, put that knowledge across in the way that the question or task requires and the mark scheme demands. Hitting those criteria on the mark scheme and being succinct and clear and not having to write more than we need to in order to do that. That is the student superpower. And that is what I want to share with you, because I think a lot of this is, it all sort of sounds great, but students don't really have the how. And I'm really big on giving them the strategies, the systems, and the concepts to be able to do all of this for themselves. So here's how I know this. I'm not going to do a long introduction to me. A lot of you I know already know me pretty well, but I'm Katie Jones, and I have been working in high school education for over 18 years now. I won a UK National Teaching Award, if you couldn't tell by my accent. I'm originally from the UK. I started my teaching career in the UK, and in my time there, I won a UK National Teaching Award. I eventually, obviously, moved over to Australia, but in that time have had my work published in education journals, been a coursework moderator for various different exam boards, and became an exam board marker. I became an exam board marker in my final year of teaching in the UK. And let me tell you, this is the thing that catapulted everything else, because from the first day of exam marking, I picked up so much, well, my exam marker training, I should really say, exam marker training, I picked up so much that goes on behind the scenes of exams. And ever since then, I have basically become what I would call a self-confessed exam geek. I have really devoured everything I possibly can about how exams work, how they're structured, how I can help students, because I really, and I'll talk about this in a second, but I really didn't have a clue. And I will tell you, yes, you get paid to do exam marking. So yes, it was extra pocket money for me, but one of the reasons I did it was because I genuinely was curious to figure out like what goes on behind that curtain. Because I would have students who I knew were fantastic students and knew so much, and sometimes their final, back there it was GCSEs results, were not quite what we thought they were going to be, and someone else would just absolutely like not quite come out of the woodwork, but I can't think of a better phrase right now, and get a much better result than I maybe would have predicted for them. So I was like, what is going on here? So ever since then, I have really dived into this deeply. I've become a scrutiny panel member, also a writing panel member. That means we're actually involved in writing and creating the questions, the mark schemes. I've run professional development teacher workshops on this to help teachers be able to help their students in the classroom. Online training, I've developed online training and become a study coach, founded Rock Solid Study in order to be able to disseminate all of that information and training more widely, and created the 10-week Great Transformation Program, and have created the Parents of Hardworking Teens podcast. So as you can tell, I have a lot to say and a lot of stuff that I am doing to try and get all of this out there. So here's the thing that I really have sort of come across and really want to make clear and build on this evening. Notice that it looks like the same graph. Notice that the bottom line is not about time spent on study, amount of information memorized. We're going a step further with this, okay? So results versus amount of information that your teen or you as the student has memorized, has managed to learn, taking notes in class, revised, and has stepped into that example with, or whatever the formal assessment might be. Same thing again. It's not a straight line. If only it was, right? It would feel like it should be. Should be student that puts in the most amount of time gets the highest grades. The student that knows the most amount of information gets the highest grades. In reality, we know that isn't true. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to have a think about which of those dots, which of those asterisks do you think you would fit most into, or your teen would fit most into? And here's what I want for you. I want for you to just be somewhere on this side of the line. I want you to be getting maximum result for the knowledge that you walk in with and for the time and effort that you put in. That is what this is all about, okay? And I've put this phrase in on purpose because I think this is a phrase that gets banded around, not probably far too often, but it isn't backed up. Oh, well, let's just study smarter, not harder. It's like, how do we get into that half of the graph? Oh, let's study smarter, not harder. Like, it sounds great. And I'm sure everyone's like, yes, please, let's do that. Remember I highlighted the word how? How do we do it? And what does that actually look like in terms of high school study, exam boards, assessment, syllabus documents, all the rest of it? Okay, so here is up-level strategy number 1. Hope you're ready. Mastering the missing ingredient is going to ensure greatest results with the knowledge we have. Now, I'm not saying that anyone is going to go in knowing every piece of knowledge that they need on the syllabus. What I want is for wherever that knowledge is, then to be able to maximize and optimize that when it comes to results, because so many students, and I will put my hand up for this as a high school student, probably more than just a high school student, every type of student throughout my life, that would put in all that effort, did everything I needed to in class, and would get disappointing results. And I never will put low or high results, because disappointing is whatever disappointing is for you or your teen, right? I know some students that are going to be disappointed if they get a D and not a C. I know some students that are going to be disappointed with an A- if they didn't get an A. Okay, so it's about that relationship in terms of where they feel like they want to be, should be, etc. The problem is when we get those disappointing results, we tend to think, well, the information I wrote must have been wrong. Like, I literally put an incorrect answer. Or I didn't put in enough information. This is a very common one. And we just think, okay, well, I'll just write longer answers. And then we kind of go into either waffle zone or what I call the spaghetti approach, where we're just writing as much as we can about the topic on the page or in that essay, because we're sort of hedging our bets about what we think will or won't get us marks. Oh my goodness, this was definitely me. Or they start to think, okay, well, I'm just maybe no good at this subject. Like, maybe I'm just not great at English. I'm not so good at science, whatever it might be. And so the problem with that is we then start to try and work harder, we stay up longer, we learn more and more subject content, we do things like wider reading around the subject. Now, there's nothing necessarily wrong with wider reading in itself, but is it one of the things that I would advise a student to do in order to increase their results or their return on effort? It wouldn't even make it into the top 10. I'm going to share with you some of the things that I would do instead, okay? Like I said, this is exactly what I would do. You can see my beautiful, has anyone ever had a great looking school photo? They always look so awful, but here's me. This is me as a high school student. I was doing everything I was told to by the teachers. And I will say, I'm going to put it in inverted commas because, like I said, I don't think that this is an absolute, but I was getting what I felt and most people would consider are good results. I was getting B's, B pluses, and maybe the odd A minus every now and again, which is very exciting. I was the classic B plus kind of student. And that was what I used to think of myself, like, I'm just a B student, I'm a B plus kind of student. I was definitely using the study longer and work harder strategy to try to improve. I was definitely also using the spaghetti throwing approach as well. And the issue I have with that is not about any of the grades or anything like that. It's just that now, knowing what I know, I could have either gotten the same good results, but had much more of a life outside of things. I wouldn't have been studying all the hours that I was and feeling maybe as stressed about things as I was. Or I could have still put in that same amount of effort, but in different ways and gotten even better results. That's what I know just on reflection by thinking about and looking back on that now. Because here's what I do know to be true is disappointing results are more often because students did not respond to exactly what the question or task required, or in the way that accessed. Notice the word access. Sometimes we're not even accessing the marks, let alone just not getting them or getting it wrong. We're not even accessing some of the marks available on the marking criteria and on the mark scheme. And I know that because I've marked tens of thousands of pieces of coursework, essays, year 12 writing tests, external examinations, mock exams, you name it, okay? That's where I see students losing marks. It's so obvious to see, I can see it. I can see that they know it, and I can just see those marks, unfortunately, dropping away. So I want to share with you the study success formula, and that is that yes, we do need the knowledge. I'm not saying that we don't need subject knowledge. We absolutely need subject knowledge. But we also need to be able to apply that subject knowledge. And this is a skill set in itself. And it's these two things together that create success. But as you can probably guess from what I've been talking about so far, it's the application that is missing for so many students. A lot of students, it's the whole we don't know what we don't know. I didn't even know after 4 years of teaching, I'd won a national teaching award, I'd gotten great results with my classes. I didn't know this stuff until I got into working with exam boards. And the problem is that so many students are focused on the knowledge, and understandably, schools and teachers are as well. So there's only a tiny percentage of teachers that ever go and do external work with the exam board. So they wouldn't even know it to bring into the classroom, and it's not their job to. Their job is to follow the syllabus and deliver the curriculum. And they do that so well. They build the knowledge. The problem, or the solution I should really say, is that students need to be able to show they know that stuff. They need to be able to show that they have that subject knowledge. And that means we need to fix the weakest link. We need to fix the weakest link. So if you feel like if you were to give yourself a rating out of 10, you don't have to share this in the chat. You can if you want to, but jot it down. Put a K. Overall, it might be different for different subjects, but if you're the student watching this right now, give yourself a score out of 10 in how confident you would feel in terms of your subject knowledge in general. If you're just starting a new year group, do it on reflection for the year you just had. The problem is that if we're trying to put more and more fuel into the car, hoping that that is going to make it perform better, go further, go faster, that's all very well and good, but if we are missing the wheels off of the car, it does not matter how much more fuel we put in until we get the wheels on. If the wheels are missing, that car is not going anywhere. It is certainly not living up to its full potential. And it does not matter how much more effort we put into making that car better. It's not going to happen. We've got to fix the weakest link. We've got to get the wheels on the car. We've got to get those skills of application in place. And I want to let you know that these skills are what I call universally effective. And what that means is that they work for any subject. They work across multiple subjects. I've had students use this in dance, in physics, in visual art, in English, in maths. I'll share with you some examples, some quite diverse examples in a moment. Across all different exam boards, we have students in the UK, in Australia, in New Zealand, in Singapore, and internationally studying the IB, and IGCSE and the Cambridge syllabus as well. And in any grades from, now I say years 9 to 12 and 10 to 13. So if you're going up to, so A-levels in the UK up to year 13 in New Zealand, that'll be 10 to 13 or 9 to 12, okay? And the reason being, because we tend to get those larger and more advanced topics where it's all about applying knowledge as opposed to regurgitating facts, and I'll touch on that more in a second. They are absolutely crucial, I should say, in the senior years, because that is where we get those mark schemes and the very stringent guidelines on what does and doesn't get a mark. So let's look at up-level strategy number 2, dissecting questions like a pro. Dissecting questions like a pro, so that you give the marker exactly what they want to see and need to see in order to be able to award marks, and you then get the results that actually match your ability and the effort that you're putting in. And to do that, we need to be aware of one key word in every question that reveals exactly what the question really wants. Remember, give the right amount of detail, answer the question. That's what we're talking about. And that one key word is what I call the command word. Now, the command word is also known as, or you may have heard it worded as, cognitive verbs, directives, task words. All different exam boards and states and countries call them different things. I love the term command word because it is what is literally commanding you to do. Okay, some places do actually call it command word, and I will know that some students in some places don't really have a word for this at all. But here's my little gripe for this. I'm going to have my short little rant. Even where these are shared with students, here's how I see them being shared: a poster on the wall or a sheet stuck in the back of their diary or the back of their book, and it gets given out and they barely get revisited again. So what happens is students become familiar sometimes with these things. They're like, oh yeah, we've been shown that. I nearly said taught that. Did you hear that? It's like, you haven't really been taught what to do with them, what they really mean, how to respond, in what way, at what level, and what wording to use in order to respond to them. So they get familiar with words like contrast, define, explain, analyze, compare, describe, comment on. And yet, are they really sure what to do with them? Because here's the key thing that we really need to know with this. Not all command words are created equal. Not all command words are created equal. So I'm going to share with you what I mean by that. Let's take an example. This is what I would call a very neutral example. It is not subject specific. And I like to use a lot of neutral examples so that it's just clear for everyone. I mean, everyone can engage. No one's feeling like, oh gosh, this isn't really my strength because we're talking about something to do with history or whatever. Let's take the topic of a laptop. Let's consider how we could ask or be asked questions about a laptop. The question could say, define the laptop, or define the word laptop, where we just need to state, it's going to be like a definition of what it is. What is a laptop? We could have to describe the laptop. So we have to literally say what we say. We're going to say, what size is it? What color is it? What shape is it? What does it look like? Maybe even what is it made out of? We could have to explain the laptop, where we're having to explain maybe why it is used or what the purpose is. We could be asked to evaluate the laptop. To what extent is it fit for purpose? Can you see, can you see that every single one of those is going to result in a very different answer, a very different response? That's a very basic example, but I really want you to see how different these things are. So when you start then applying it to something a lot more subtle or intricate, you can see what a difference this makes. So I want to share with you this model. It's Bloom's taxonomy. We get trained in this as teachers, but very rarely is it explicitly shared with or taught to students. There are 6 levels of Bloom's taxonomy. It goes from remember at the bottom up to create. Remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, create. There have been other variations made on this over the years. This is essentially like the original. But the reason that I love to use it is because of this shape of the pyramid and how clear and simple it is to use, okay? At the bottom, I'm going to share with you like how it steps up. So at the bottom, we've got remember, at the top, we've got create. Now, I will tell you now that very rarely do we get any kind of actual exam questions and even often assessment questions that relate to create, okay? But I'm going to tell you about some of the others. Here are just some examples of the command words that go with each level. There are many, many, many command words that sit at each level. Okay, if we had to, we could probably write out 100 command words if we all team together. Don't worry, we're not going. Describe, explain, suggest, compare, to what extent, and devise. Okay, these are just examples. There are many more, but this is the part. Definitely take notes here. This is the part that I want to drum in. When teachers give feedback or say, give more detail, they don't mean write more stuff. Because think about it, if we have written an answer that is at the understand, we're explaining something, but we should be analyzing, they are two different things. This is a really good litmus test, side note, litmus test. If you ever think to yourself as a student or your teen ever thinks that analyzing is just explaining in more detail, they're two rungs away from each other on the ladder. They're two different skills. They're two different things. Just writing more explanation does not mean that we're going to suddenly be analyzing. So when they say give more detail, they do not mean write more stuff. They do not mean keep operating at this level and tell me more. It usually means we're not at the right level. So the irony of this is, even though it usually says go into more depth or go into more detail, they actually mean go up. Okay, we're hovering too far at the bottom, and I'm going to show you some examples of this in a second to really make this clear. And when it says answer the question, again, that usually means that we're not responding to the command. We're talking about the topic. I often say like we're writing about, we're not responding to the question. Okay, I would write that down. We don't want to write about whatever the topic is in the question. Usually we fixate, I did this as a student. You just fixate on what the question is about. You wouldn't be responding to. So I'll share with you Shweta. She was in year 9 when she went through the 10-week Great Transformation Program, and she absolutely admitted, she was like, I used to write the same thing for my answers, no matter how the question was worded. It wasn't Shweta, it was another student just say to me, like, I just kind of thought they just wrote them differently to like vary it up and make it sound a little bit more interesting. And I was like, yeah, I probably thought that as well, just so that all the questions didn't sound the same. She said, after doing the program, I realized, oh, these words actually mean something. And she said, it's so much easier to plan and write when you know what it's asking, and in her words, she's like, and you just know what to do. I'm like, yeah, it definitely is. So here's where this links into the different year groups and the different types of tasks. It makes sense that the marks awarded are going to go up as we go up through these levels. So the low mark questions or tasks are going to be at those low levels of remember and understand. And the high level marks are going to be at those analyze, evaluate, and potentially create level. Okay, so let's give you a couple of examples. This is from an HSE external maths exam. Okay, this is going to be very basic, but I want to be able to show you some really diverse examples so you can see how this relates to different subjects. This question says, list all of the even numbers on the wheel that are greater than 7. It's not a rocket science kind of question, but look, it has the word list. We know that's at the bottom rung, okay? That is going to be a describe, a knowledge-based question. It makes sense. Do we know what even numbers are? And do you know which numbers are greater than 7? So that totally makes sense that there should be a knowledge level, and it's 1. Even though notice, there's going to be lots of different numbers in that answer. There's not just going to be one number, but it's only worth 1 mark because it's at the low level. Same paper, I got this from the exact same exam paper. This is a 2024 past paper. 3-mark question. Notice the difference in the command. Compare the 2 data sets by examining the skewness, median, and spread of the distributions. Now, yes, we've got 3 marks, and there's 3 things: skewness, median, and spread. But what does compare mean? And if students aren't clear on what compare really means, if they just start writing about the skewness or the median of each one, and I've got so much to say, I could do probably half a webinar just on the word compare, but I won't go into that right now. If they don't know what comparing really means, and therefore they're not going to nail that answer, they're going to miss out on marks that they absolutely could be getting, because look, the information is there for them. They could probably do this, but do they know what that command is and how to respond? And look at how many lines are given for a 3-mark answer. And I will tell you, the student could, if they really did nail this and they knew exactly how to respond, I'm telling you, they could get those 3 marks within 3, maybe 4 if their writing's quite big, lines. I'll share with you in a little bit later, I'll share with you a real student who did something very similar to that. And that's what I get excited about. I will say, like, whenever I'm marking, when I get an answer, obviously when we get the really beautiful answers and the responses, like, that's fantastic. But I really get a little bit excited when some student, you can tell that, like, sometimes it might be intentional and sometimes it might just be a freak, but they've written something minimal, but somehow they've absolutely nailed the marking criteria. I'm like, oh, how have they done that? I'm like, that is smart. So that's what gets me excited. So now let's think about how this changes as we go through the year groups. And this is where so many students get caught out, because this is never explicitly shared. They don't sit down at the start of year 10 or year 11 or year 9 or whatever it is and go, right, just so that you know, here's what you're going to start to see happening and here's what you need to do about it. But if you think back, if you're a parent or a carer, or even if you're a student in the higher year groups, think back to the sorts of tasks and questions that you were doing back in year 7 and 8. They were mostly kind of factual, knowledge-based questions. We're learning about, you know, what happened in medieval Europe, or we're learning about the planets in science, or whatever it is. As we go up to years 9 and 10, and this is why I say this kicks in, and why I really aim my stuff at year 9 or 10 and above, depending on your year groups, is because this is when those higher level tasks come in. Year 9 or year 10, depending on the corresponding year levels, analyze really kicks in. But how many students are truly taught how to actually analyze and not just write more detail on their explanation or write more information? And then years 11 or 12 or 12 and 13 is when we really start to get those high level tasks, the analyze, the evaluate, and to some extent create, which I'm going to come into in a second. So going from those more simple maths questions, like I said, I want to show you that this is universal, but I also want to show you some of the more challenging stuff, because you're like, okay, well, I can get that for even numbers for a 1-mark question in maths. I want to go completely the other end of the scale. I'm going to share with you one of the more challenging exam questions. This is from the New Zealand past papers for English. It's an essay question. And it says, discuss the extent to which you agree with your chosen statement. I know you don't know the statement. We don't need to know the statement. Remember, we're practicing skills, not subject knowledge. So this is great news if you're a parent who's like, oh my gosh, my teen is studying this novel or this play or whatever the topic is, and I'd love to be able to support them, but I don't really fancy reading the novel. You absolutely can. Respond critically to the statement by making a close analysis of the texts. Okay, we also don't know what the texts are. So also good news for students, if you want to go and just practice your exam technique and hone these skills, you can do it with any past paper questions, okay? Okay, let's have a little look. Who's going to be fast fingers in the chat? Who can identify the command word or words that might be clues in this question? Go ahead and just dump in what first stands out to you. I'd love to hear and see what is jumping out at you now. Because what you'll start to find, this is what's happened for me over the years, and this is what I really want to happen for students, is instead of thinking about the topic, and we don't even know the topic, right? We don't even have the text. Instead of thinking about the topic, my brain now goes straight to the command. Okay, what does this question want me to do? Because even if we're not that great with the subject content, we could probably do enough with it that we're going to meet some of those criteria. Yes, okay, brilliant. All right, we've got discuss, we've got respond, and someone's got the close analysis. Yeah, discuss and analyze. Brilliant. Okay, respond critically. Fantastic. Okay, let's break this down, because there's a lot going on, right? Because you're like, okay, sometimes it might be as simple as just saying calculate or estimate or state or define or identify. And other times it's not that obvious. So I want to share this with you so you can sort of see an example of the nuance of this skill and why it is a skill, as opposed to it's just a learn these things parrot fashion, okay? Which is, like I said, what happens when they're in the back of the book. So we have the command discuss. Now, discuss can mean a couple of things. Usually, it will mean either analyze or evaluate. I have sort of seen it used for kind of explain, but that gets a bit messy. And we know it's an essay question, so it's not going to be a low mark answer, right? So we know that it's probably going to be analyze or evaluate. Here are some other clues. Yes, it says analysis. A close analysis of the text. It does say analysis. So now we're thinking, okay, well, I'm probably needing to analyze. Okay, I need to analyze the text and use that analysis to help decide if I agree with the statement. Here's, here's the absolute flashing light, the light that is like the beam of light onto this question. The part that says the extent to which. This is the little sneaky part, but not sneaky when you know it. Again, good news, bad news, right? And let me tell you, they do not write questions to try and be sneaky. They are not trying to catch students out, okay? This is an appropriately worded question. This is the beauty of, you know, working on multiple exam boards for multiple years. Okay, I've just had, oh, there we go. Okay, this is what that means. It means we need to give a judgment. To what extent do I agree? Do I totally agree? Yes, I agree. No, I completely disagree. Or, as is often the case, somewhat agree with the statement in relation to that text. Yes, no, somewhat. The analysis is what leads us to that judgment. We have to analyze the evidence and the relevant aspects of the text in order to make that judgment. So it's almost like they're nested. In order to do evaluation, we have to be able to analyze and see how important the command of analyze is, right? And I have a bonus tip for you. Okay, I have a bonus tip for you. Here's another thing that I find catches a lot of students out. Students, if you feel like this sometimes freaks you out, it did to me as well. To what extent do you agree with? And I would be sat there as a teenager going, I don't know. I'm just sat here studying this because I had to in school. And how am I supposed to have some unique personal opinion on whatever this is, this poem, this Shakespeare play, this novel, whatever it was? Let me tell you, I have very good news for you here. This is my bonus tip. You do not have to have a personal opinion. And this is where that close analysis comes in. A close analysis means read it or interpret it in the way it was intended by the author. So it isn't, do you personally agree with? You don't have to have your own unique, wonderful opinion. This is good news, I hope. It was good news for me. But it means you just have to consider, based on the evidence and based on the reading and the close analysis and the intention of the text and how most people would interpret it and how you've been taught it in class if it's not an unseen text. What did the author mean? What was the message they wanted to convey? Was that aligned with the statement or was it not, or was it somewhat? Okay, so that's the first good news. You do it through a close analysis. You don't have to have your own unique opinion. And, oh, hang on, let me go back. I've got a bonus thing I also want to say. This is double bonus tip, actually. I've just thought of something else that might be helpful. Okay, because I've got some smiley faces coming through. Bonus tip. If you're not sure, if you're really stumped and you just go, I have no clue what I'm doing. Again, this is all about, like, let's just grab some low-hanging fruit. Just agree with it. Okay? Just agree with it. That's kind of slightly unofficial advice maybe, but they wouldn't put a statement if it was completely unrelated. There will be something that relates. So if ever you're completely stuck and you're absolutely scrabbling around, just agree with it. Okay, it's not necessarily going to be the top or the best answer, but it gives you a backup. And so I hope that is helpful for anyone who ever does feel like they're just getting caught out and feeling absolutely overwhelmed in the moment. All right, that was a bonus tip. This is Alex. Alex was in year 11 when he did my training. He said, before I was just sort of guessing. How many of us have done that? Just kind of guessed our way, hedged our bets, taken our best guess. And he said, if I got a good result, it just felt like a fluke. But if I got a bad result, I didn't really know how to do better because I kind of guessed and I didn't really know what was good and what was bad and why. And that's the big part. Like, why? Why did we get that mark? And that's a big part of what we do in the coaching that I do, is figuring that out and dissecting the response in relation to the marking guide or in relation to the command. And his mum said, seeing how frustrating and draining it was for him, it was tough. He'd get feedback saying his knowledge of content was good. How many times does this happen? But there was always something missing in how he put that across. It was so helpful to see how to tackle a question, be able to figure out how to respond in an essay, and also what to prioritize when prepping for exams. And this is William. William was in year 10, and this was his grandmother, Joyce. She said, he's extremely knowledgeable, but he used to freeze. He would get overwhelmed when he had large tasks, even though he could tell you all about the subject. And she said, these skills have given him the ability to structure his knowledge. And now in assignments, he just gets stuck in. And I will just mention this because I think it might be helpful for some of you here, because I know some people mentioned this on their surveys, etc. And Joyce and William have always said that they're really happy for me to share this because William is neurodivergent, and she just said, for those students who really like to have steps and structure, that was a super helpful part for him. Up-level strategy number 3. I can see the chat's going a bit crazy, so I'm gonna Have a quick break so you don't miss anything. Up-level strategy number 3. Strategically creating more opportunities for success. Strategically creating more opportunities for success by accessing more of the high-level criteria in every assessment. So here's where we go back to, this is how important this whole model is, Bloom's taxonomy, but I want to talk about a different way to consider this. Task type hierarchy. Stick with me, I'm going to explain. Task type hierarchy. When we're down the bottom, we're basically answering questions. They ask us a question, we have a specific information-based answer. Okay, it's Q&A, it's like a quiz question. As we get up through the higher levels, we're having to, as I've said about 100 times, respond to questions. We've got to respond to the question. We can't just write about. We've got to respond to exactly the focus of the question. And as I mentioned, there's not a lot of questions that ask us to create something, but sometimes we have to create our own questions. We have to devise a question for an inquiry task or an investigation. So at the bottom, we've got the recounting of facts. Then we've got writing, maybe essays, reports, analytical expositions, whatever it might be. And then we've got these inquiries, investigations, which are very often the coursework that accompanies the other part of the percentage with that final exam. So it's really important to be creating an inquiry or investigation question or topic that is going to allow us to access the marks. And let me show you what I mean by that. If we have an inquiry or an investigation, if we make our research question or our key question somewhere down the bottom, if we make it at a level that's only going to be remembering, understanding, applying, I don't think anyone would probably put one in remember, but we never know. We are cutting off our ability to even get into some of those higher level criteria. We need to be pitching or asking or constructing an inquiry or research question at the evaluate or analyze levels. I would never want a student to do anything that isn't at one of those 2 levels, and you can probably guess which one I would really like it to be at. We can then have sub-questions, because very often then we have sub-questions within it. Those can be at the bottom, and here's how I'm going to give you a tip. Literally structure them going up that ladder. So you might have some basic facts, then you might have some explanations, then you might have some examples where you apply, and then we're getting into analyze and create. That's a beautiful way to structure an inquiry or investigation. And I've got to share this with you. This was such a great example. Lucille, in year 11, she said, I had this, I didn't even know this was happening at the time. She told me this after the fact when we had a meeting or a consult. She said, I had this geo task that I've been procrastinating on for ages. I didn't know this. She came to one of our group coaching calls. She said, I watched the recording that you gave, the coaching that you gave to another student on her history, different subject, different student, didn't know the student, different school. And I suddenly realized I can just use those command levels for mine. She had to come up with an inquiry for her geography coursework, and she was really struggling to refine the question and think about how she was going to structure the whole investigation. And I was working on something with another student for a history inquiry, and this is the whole idea of everything being universal. She understood the concept of what I was telling this student or advising or discussing with this student. I probably won't just tell someone something to do, but we'll get into the discussion around it and the advice and the concepts behind it to guide them. And then she was like, oh, that's what I can do for mine. And she was able to just get away. She literally apparently ran up the stairs and was like, oh, I've got it. And her mum said it was a light bulb moment and a huge relief because this has been causing some stress at home. And like I said, this is happening for various different students in different ways, but when your teen or you as the student master this, you're going to feel confident walking into an example. You're going to be able to be cool and calm when completing any assignments or essays or the revision to go into that exam, having a lot more clarity on what to actually focus on and what to prioritize for greatest reward, and have control of your time and be able to use it efficiently and effectively. So it is not just spreading to take up what feels like a huge amount of our life. Writing more of what gets credit in an essay, in an assignment, in an exam question, and less of what doesn't. I find that's a huge thing, is having the confidence of not just what to write, but what we don't need to write. We could write that, but if we know it's not going to get any marks, we know it isn't part of the focus of the question, and having the confidence to leave that off is huge. I'm going to give you a beautiful example of someone who did that in a second. So that we gain the results that your team maybe wants or needs or you deserve for your future. So here's where I'm going to offer to help you to take this further if you would like to, because over the past 18 years, I have helped thousands of students skyrocket their results and their confidence. And as you've probably guessed by now, it wasn't by helping them have more and more subject content stored in their head. It wasn't through memory hacks. It wasn't through motivation. It wasn't through reading more and more knowledge and writer reading and textbooks and all of the rest of it. It was through the skills and strategies and techniques that I've shared some of this evening and can go into more detail. The brilliant news of all of this is like I said, these are skills. They are not talents. They are not something we're just born with. They are skills, and therefore they can be learned. No one is born with them, and no one is really explicitly taught them. But that is what I really want to do, and what I find really helps students is to have these things broken down and explicitly explained, and have structures and steps and systems to be able to deal with them. And your teen or you as a student can do it as well, because what I have done is put all of this into a set of strategies taught in a tried and tested system that is very clear and very simple and very structured, but as you can imagine, in terms of what we can do as a result, very powerful. So I want to share with you the 10-week grade transformation program. Now, if this is something that you feel could be helpful, then please stay on, because I'm going to share with you an invitation to get involved. But even if you feel like right now this isn't something that I'm interested in, you might find it helpful if you want to just stay on and see the things that I'm going to share with you, the exact content of what's included and what I do with students, just in case that might help guide you with some next steps, and maybe find some of those little weak links, like we said about getting the wheels on the car, that will be helpful for you. So this is really made for students who are in years 9 to 12 or 10 to 13, who are already working hard, and generally they get what they are learning in class. And they either want better results that match their knowledge and effort. This was Max and his mum, Amelia. I actually have a video from them. I watched it earlier today because I was going back through and going through these slides, and it reminded me. If I get time, I will share it with you right at the very end if you just want to stay on. Max was getting results certainly below what he wanted and below what it felt like his knowledge was at. He said, I was struggling in year 11. And he said, things weren't looking too good. I was stressing about year 12 because I knew that I had to get a certain ATAR to do what I wanted. His mum, Amelia, said his confidence increased because he understood what he was supposed to be doing, how to tackle tasks, and how to manage his time. And his results, this was kind of incredible, increased by at least 30% on every subject. Now, I didn't get the exact details from Max of where he was. I'm guessing he was around in the 50s, maybe 60, okay? And you'll see why in a second. He said Max never really performed that well in exams. His final external exams, however, ended up being his highest scores across the year. And she said, never did we dream that he'd be able to get in the high 80s and 90s in external exams. That was the difference that having this training that he went through at the end of year 11, going into year 12, made for him. And it's also for students who want the same results, but with less time or effort or stress and more life balance. This was the case for Tara and her dad, Kevin. It was actually her father, Kevin, who really got her onto this, because he said we wanted Tara to get the same results with less work, because he'd actually been kind of getting very anxious for her throughout her year 9, because she's one of those really hardworking students. She has very high goals for herself, but she does high level sport, she does community volunteering, she's got a lot of like leadership roles and things that she takes on within school. So she was just super busy, and he was like, I can't even imagine what this is going to be like when we get to the senior years. We need to do something. And he said, we want to get Tara the same results with less work. And she has ended up getting even better results, but spending less time. So being able to get better results, but with less time. So he said it's been a win-win. All they wanted really was for her to be able to spend less time, but she got even better results. So that brings us into the thing of like, well, maybe what if I want both? Can I get better results and also have less stress and be spending less time and struggle on that study? This is just a few students who've had this. This is Chloe and her mum. Chloe was already doing well, but her goal was she wanted to be DAX. her mum's words were, she wants to beat the boys. She wanted to get ducks, and there's nothing wrong with having that as a goal. And so she really needed to know, how do I get to those top results? And what's happened is, this is such a beautiful story. They wrote to me in December and said she got ducks. And she's also had less stress, less struggle, less strain, less late nights to get everything done. So that was definitely a double whammy for her. This is Daniel. Daniel, he loves being on the skate park. So he wasn't totally happy with his results, but being completely blunt, him and his mum both said, he does not want to be spending hours and hours and hours at the desk to get those better results. He also wants to have his time at the skate park. That's what happened for him. So he was able to get his better results. He boosted his results. He started getting some A's even, and he's also able to still do his skating. He's even he's had videos that he's put on YouTube that have actually started earning him money. He's gotten so into that, which is amazing. And this is Campbell. I mentioned this to you earlier about writing a shorter answer that doesn't even fill up all the lines. His mum emailed me. It was one of my favorite emails ever. His mum's Selena, and she said he was doing a group tutorial thing. I think it was a revision group at school, and they did this practice question. And she said his little group mates out of all of them, she said he wrote the shortest answer, the shortest response, and he got the highest mark. That is a great example of do less and achieve more. So I love that. So, like I said, I do have a special invitation for you if you are thinking about being able to get more skilled at this. So the 10-week Great Transformation Program is an online program. You get instant access to everything, including 10 structured progressive catapult modules. We call them catapults because they boost confidence and results very high, and they do it very fast. Each of those modules is about an hour each. So I estimate 1 hour per week is the amount of time or commitment required. It doesn't have to be sit down and do the whole hour, and it doesn't have to be at a certain time, because everything is shared through videos, workbook manuals, directed actions. We do everything together, and students can log in at any time that is good for them, because they get access to everything. It is already loaded in there for them in their member area. That means that everything is easy and convenient and manageable. There's no travel needed. There's no scheduling needed. So if your teen is busy, it's no problem. They can do it in little snippets whenever it is working for them. So they get the desired results with less stress and the confidence and opportunities that those bring. Now, this is what I promised you. I'm going to share with you exactly what I train students in those 10 modules. So you'll see the first 2 are all about that, we'll call it organization, time management, mindset, all of that, but from a very tangible, nitty-gritty specific way. So I'll talk all about scheduling outcomes, how to manage tasks versus time, where to prioritize, when to do those things, how to fit it in, all of that. I like tangible stuff. I hate anything vague, wishy-washy, fluffy, whatever it is. Then we really get into, remember, we still need the knowledge. We get into the knowledge part of the equation. Note-taking, whether that's for research, whether it's in class, whether it's independent learning, reverse engineered revision planning, and revision that actually works. We want to get away from passive revision techniques, all the huge notes and all the rest of it. There's better ways, more effective and efficient ways to do it. And then, of course, those skills of application. The whole second half of the program is those skills of application. But like I mentioned, flexibility, your teen can dive in wherever they want to if they want. Okay, I'm going to talk to you more about how that actually works in a second. But just consider for a second, what would this actually cost if we had to try and maybe find this locally or through traditional methods? A high quality teacher, performance tutor, study coach with over 18 years experience in national award standard teaching, and who has been an examiner, scrutiny panel member for national and state exam boards internationally, is an external coursework moderator, and delivers international standard deep dive training in battle tested. This is something I have built up over years and years of teaching and then tutoring and then coaching, proven concepts, strategies, and skills, covering the everyday study and every type of assessment across every subject, and do it all within 10 weeks at a time and a place that suits your teen, and also provides, this is not one of those online programs where there's zero interaction, you just get left with it. You get opportunities for personal feedback and interaction. I will give you details on that. And with someone who is happy to talk for parents as much or as little as you like. As you can tell, I can talk about this stuff all day. I'm always up for a chat about anything to do with your teen study. But also I know there are so many parents that just love to know that this is now being taken care of and they can sit back and relax. Absolutely all good as well. So let's consider that support then. How are they going to be kept on track if this is an online program? Well, like I said, it's about an hour per week commitment. Everything is broken down into 7 to 12-minute online tutorials, and you will each get weekly emails so you can keep track of how far through we are and where they should be at. Busy schedules. We provide flexibility. They get instant access to the whole program. It's not getting dripped week by week. If they want to get ahead at some points, they can. If they want to go straight to a particular module, they can. I think that's important to be able to give students the best opportunity to use it in the way that works for them. It is in a structured order. So if there is not something critical, then definitely go through in order. But I like to provide that flexibility. If they, something comes up, they also get 12 weeks access. So it's a 10-week program, 2 extra buffer weeks, okay, just in case, so they have a little bit of breathing space so they can go back and recap. And we even give a delayed start option. So the program is available all of the time, but there are certain times, a couple of times a year, where I will deliver a webinar or some kind of event like this and include the promotion for the program. And as you'll see in a moment, include some special extras. What that means is if you want to enroll and get that promotional extra bonus collection that I'm going to share with you, you can still do that. And then you can just email us within 24 hours of your enrollment and just say, reply to the email and just say, hey, we'd actually like to start on this date. And that's when then the 12 weeks will start. Okay, so again, plenty of flexibility. And question, what happens after the 12 weeks? They have all those workbooks that they're going to complete as they go. That becomes their easy reference guide. They don't have to like log back in, try and find the bit on the video where Katie talks about this. They just go to that workbook, they find it, they go, oh yeah, that's what I'm doing. That is their reference to keep forever. And of course, if they have any questions or there's anything they want to ask about or need help with, that is what I'm here for. So here are the bonuses that are included with the 10-week grade transformation program. Bonus number 1 is the Study Vault 12 weeks membership. They also get instant access to this online resource library. This is where I have stored the tutorials and seminars and resources that I've delivered or produced over the past 8, probably now, years. They get access to all of this. So anything they want to dive deeper on and get more support with, there's links to all the past papers of all the exam boards, how-to videos, Q&A recordings, tutorials, templates, cheat sheets, help sheets, top tips, examples to do with all different types of tasks. So how to choose an A-grade topic in open tasks, how to make your writing more interesting. This is from a non-English specialist. This is from someone who just knows what they're looking for. How I would approach an assignment task and break it down step by step. 4 ways to structure an extended response. You can see how this is much more little specific things, but again, still skill-based. Those links to the exam boards, how to describe and analyze data sources, much more specific skills if they want additional support in any particular areas of their study. Now, this has well over 40 resources that I counted at last count. So all up has a value of at least $1,600 by the time you've gone through all of those things. This is all included with their 12 weeks membership. Plus, I provide personal help. So how do they really make sure that they're applying everything to their own work? So they're going through the training. Let's make sure that they're actually doing it and actioning it correctly. So here's what we have. Huge bonus number 2, 3 group coaching calls. They can come to any 3 group coaching calls throughout their 12 weeks and work with me. And also we have an English focus coach. That is Gemma Toms. She is an absolute ninja. Now, she is not there to do English tutoring. She is a senior examiner. She's just literally at the moment, I think it was yesterday and today, doing her lead marking to become a senior examiner, i.e. she then trains the markers and she oversees the whole process. So she has, I know it's over 10 years. I'm not sure exactly what she's up to in terms of years now of external examiner and coursework moderation experience. That's why we have her. These run online live every week. Your team can come to any 3 that they want to. So they pick ones that work for them and their timings and their tasks. They can just ask questions and get instant answers by just typing in the chat. They can get detailed coaching. So they submit maybe a draft or a brand new task or whatever it is that they would like some feedback or advice on. And we give them very detailed, specific, either tips, strategies, action steps, and detailed feedback for them to be able to move forwards and have a better understanding. This was feedback we got from one of the parents. She said, Asia got 95% in the assessment that you helped dissect in the last coaching call last term. She got the result yesterday as she went back to school. This is where we really get into the nitty-gritty and help students apply this to their own tasks. This was from Lauren. She said, learning how to identify what the question is asking in real life with real life questions of their own helped her think about the impact of her points in her essays. Submitting her research project to the coaching calls helped boost her grade, and she increased her predicted ATAR from 91 to 94.5 just by the tweaks that she made as a result of that feedback. But also, this is the really cool part, they can get their own help and support, but also they get to watch and learn, because as it's a group call, the whole reason we do that is so that students get to see the things that they never even realized were a thing. See questions get answered that they wouldn't have even thought to ask. See unseen questions and how we deal with them on the spot, so that they're never daunted when they see a brand new question or task or assignment, because they've seen so many of them and they know exactly what to do. This is Michaela. She said, I got a whole page of notes just from watching other students being coached. And then when I got a new assignment a couple of weeks later, I already knew exactly what to do. Now, your teen also, I'm going to mention this because some of you might be thinking, okay, well, they're not want to get onto a group call. First of all, I will just remind you, like, everyone there is very like-minded. They're all there doing the same thing for the same reason, but we record them and we post the recordings into that Study Vault resource library. So what they have is the option to submit a task, let us know what they want help with specifically on it. Myself or Gemma will go through it on the call, and then they can get that feedback on the recording. So if they can't make it live, or they just don't want to come on, but they really still would like that help, they absolutely have the opportunity to do that. So let me give you a quick hack. Every week we put on that recording. The next week we put the new recording over it. So if you're very savvy, because I'm someone that likes to get the most out of something, the most bang for buck, if you're very savvy, you could go in, watch the recording. It doesn't count as one of your 3. The 3 is the ones that you're coming to and getting feedback on and submitting for coaching. Those are the 3 ways to use it. But you can still watch the recording and get all of that other coaching as a little side note. So all of that has a value of $450. That is all going to be included for free with your team's enrollment. That is what is included with the 10-week grade transformation program. But I have a special invitation, because I want everyone set up for success in 2025, because it is the time to be proactive and get ahead of the game and get these skills under our belt early. Because the most common feedback I get from parents at the end of the program by far is, I just wish we'd done this earlier. And either because they're like, I can't believe we didn't find out about this, or we didn't know about this until now, or we've been sat on it a little while and now I wish we'd done it earlier. So for that proactive note, I know that exams are probably not going to come, in that first few weeks of school, but I want students to be ready for them when they do. So as an exam boost, I'm going to include, as the part of this webinar event only, this is not included normally, the Exam Mastery Workshop recording. I delivered this workshop all around developing, honing, practicing our exam technique. They will get the full recording, the workbook that went with it, and I included some bonus resources. The tickets to that event, $199, okay? It is not available anymore. It was a live event, but I have the recording and I'm going to include it for free with enrollments as part of this special event. So here's what I think you're going to get if you choose to come join me and go with this further. The 10-week Great Transformation Program, you get the 12 weeks access and the all access pass. The 12 weeks Study Vault membership, that is that huge resource library, and where the recordings go of all of our group calls. They get to come and get help on any 3 live group coaching calls and ask questions. and get personalized, detailed help, the exam mastery workshop recording, and the resources, all up, that is all included, that all up has a value of $3,246. You will not be paying that. You can get started today for the simple cost of the 10-week program, which is $997. That's a total saving of $2,249, or you can choose the weekly payment plan, which means that you pay $97 today and then have 10 more weekly $97 installments that would be processed automatically for you if you'd like to break that down. This particular offer for this event is only available until Monday, this coming Monday, the 3rd of February. I had to check my calendar. I had a mind blank. The 3rd of February, this Monday at 9 p.m. AEST, Australian Eastern Standard Time. If you want daylight time, you'll be forwards in hours. That would be 10 p.m. for you. Here is a special link. So do not go through the normal website because, like I said, you won't get the exam mastery workshop included. This special link, I'm going to put it up so you can have it in the chat. Save you typing all of this in if you do want to go check this out. Again, even if you just want to go and look at it, there's a whole summary page. It summarizes everything that is included and the things that we cover. So again, might just be interesting to have a look at, but this is where you can go to get the offer, and I've just popped it into the chat for you. It's www.greattransformation.com/yes, keeping it nice and easy. And I need to share with you that we have a love it or your money back double whammy guarantee. Here's why it's double. First part of the guarantee is if within 30 days you or your team feels that this program just isn't for them for any reason, so they just get into it, or you want to give it a go and you just want to try it, but you go, this just isn't going to work out for them, you just let us know, just send me an email and I will refund you in full. Or, and here's the second part, you get two options. If your team completes the whole program and actions the strategies and doesn't achieve bigger and better results with more confidence and less stress, I will refund your investment in full, because that is the confidence I have behind this training and the strategies and what I know it can do for students. Because if nothing changes, we know this one, right? Nothing changes. So the reason I have that double whammy guarantee is because I want you to be able to have the confidence and take away the risk of even just giving it a go and trying it. Because the long-term cost of kind of leaving things the same for this term and every term after that, it is going to have an impact. And so often we rely, and I see this happening so much, we rely on hope or guesswork, and we just kind of hope that things will work out, or that students will figure things out, or that we hope it's not going to be as bad as it might be, or we hope that it's all going to be okay, or we hope that they're just going to get through it. And I want that you'll get the 10-week Great Transformation Program, 12 weeks access, all access instant pass, 12 weeks Study Vault membership, typo, 12 weeks Study Vault membership, the 3 live group coaching calls. They can come to any 3. We host them each week, and they will have access to the recordings, the exam mastery workshop, and their ticket to our live essays bootcamp for live enrollments this evening only. All up, a total value of over $3,500. But like I said, you get access to everything today for $997, saving over $2,500, or you can choose the weekly payment plan. It is only available until Monday, 9 p.m. Let me tell you, that deadline is firm, okay? I will send you a couple of emails with a couple of updates on that over the next few days before Monday, but please know it is a firm deadline. You have been warned. This is the webpage where you can go get that. When you go over to that page, like I said, you might just want to go check it out. There's a whole summary, load of summary information, and you have got down that page those orange Let's Do This buttons. You will see the double whammy success guarantee. You will see student and parent case studies and stories. We've also got a couple of teacher feedback there. You can see Annalise, her feedback about the program. I've outlined every single Catapult module and the details of what's in it. So definitely go over there and check that out. And like I said, when you are ready, click on any of the orange enrollment buttons and it will pop up your enrollment form. It's a nice, easy 3-step enrollment. You choose the payment option you would like. Be sure to choose whether you want to pay in one go or you want to do the weekly payments. Then you click continue. You put in your billing details as the parent. Now, if you're here as a student, please don't try and do this by yourself. Please have a chat with whoever the right person is to chat about this with at home. Please put in parent information and parent details for the billing information, and then you complete the payment. That will all go through automatically. You'll be sent an enrollment email. It'll have your login details, and you'll have the confirmation with some information from me, because we really want to make and not just hope that 2025 is going to be a fantastic year ahead with more success, better results, and things like that life balance, that sustainable aspect of study, so that everyone is getting a good night's sleep. We know things are getting taken care of. It is for the students and for their parents. So I'm going to wrap on up and say a huge thank you. I really wish you and your team a very happy and successful year ahead.
Never did we dream that he would be able to get in the high 80s and 90s in an external examination.
Yeah, I was just shocked on the difference it made.
It was just so significantly different.
I think I was just struggling a bit in year 11, to be honest, and things weren't looking too good.
Really, he didn't know how to answer the questions. Feedback from his teachers was that he was giving lots of knowledge that he had, lots of content, but he wasn't actually answering the questions.
I remember getting this one psychology test back, and I thought I was had all the information there, but it was because I wasn't answering the actual question that I wasn't getting the full marks.
Max was spending quite a bit of time on his study, but he wasn't being effective.
Stressing a bit about year 12 because I knew I had to get a certain ATAR to do what I want, and I was stressing that I wouldn't get that. I think it just helped being able to identify the really important information in the question and then answering that.
Well, I certainly saw his confidence change, because he had ownership and he understood what he was supposed to be doing and how to tackle these tasks and how to manage his time. And so his confidence really improved. He actually got an academic commendation from his English teacher. Yeah, his confidence, his time management, his understanding of what was being asked, and his results were then showing that. So he's increased by 30% at least on every single subject. So from year 11 to 12, we were just blown away. Max usually doesn't perform particularly well in exams, and his external exam results are actually the best results across the year. So his grades continue to improve, and it blew us away. We just couldn't believe it. We're so proud of him that he was able to achieve high grade results in an external examination. You know, it's just amazing. I think we even got, for bio, you might have even got 100% on an exam, and that's never happened before. And it's just been truly amazing. We never, ever for a moment thought that Max would get an ATAR over 80s. Yeah, I get quite emotional about it, because it was a dream come true.
This is different. It's not just another let's create a timetable and time management and everything else.
That particular teacher was saying, what are you doing differently? So that was cool.
It's really transferable for any subject, and it's just been a huge eye-opener for me.
I knew that coming forward to these next 2 years that you would need to come to it with skills that weren't intuitive. They're not taught at school at all.
You can help students do more with less, and really leverage their time and use strategy more than just cramming content.
Hugely improved. I had the best English mark at the end of my year 11 exams. I got 88%. I got a 19 out of 20 in the unseen text, a 19 out of 20 in essay. I don't think I've ever gotten above 75% in an English essay or English exam in my entire life, kind of thing.
Fourth in the year. For example, in Taylor's end of year English exam, 20 points for Macbeth and an essay, and she got 19 out of 20 for that essay. And the Marcus said, what great use of compare and contrast.
We had a topic test and I actually ended up getting the best mark that I've gotten this year. My teacher was so proud of me. Like, she was so excited when we got back to school.
Yeah, he topped his maths because the way he planned and practice and everything, he topped his maths in class.
She's done so well in these exams. She's just blown us away.
And I actually got 100% in the extended answer part, which was really good. I just found out today, and she's using my answer as a model answer for everyone.
It's more satisfying to understand something. You get your results back, you understand what to do next.
Yeah, I'm really, impressed with how he's progressing.
I definitely think I'm more confident now, and I'm less anxious about upcoming exams. I usually get quite nervous even just months before, or in the holidays before. So I'm not as anxious about that now because I feel like I can answer questions better.
I feel so much more confident in basically most of my subjects. If we had a surprise exam, let's say, I would walk into that feeling a whole lot more confident.
Sitting tests I found easier because I knew what to do, and with the questions in the test, I'm like, oh yeah, with this I have to do that. This is an evaluation question, so I have to make a judgment on that.
And in science, I think I went from maybe a 70, and after the program, I think I got a 90 in my earth and environmental test. So it's just crazy.
I think just about everyone can benefit from it. If they're struggling at school at the moment, it could actually give them an opportunity to actually improve where they are now. Even if they're doing really well, then they could be actually learning to work smarter and not harder. So I don't think there would be any high school student who wouldn't benefit from a course like this.
If your teen focuses on nailing just one of those things, then I promise it will make a difference to how they approach their study this year. And if they become skilled across the whole collection of strategies and techniques, even in the full webinar, I cannot get through all of them. But if you would like your teen to have all of them, to be trained in all of them, and really hone and become skilled in the full training in order to nail their subject knowledge and their application of it, and their results and confidence will really take off. I will see you next time, and until then, I hope you have a brilliant rest of your day. Take care. I'll see you soon. Bye. If you're ready to have your teen achieve their best possible results with less stress, then I want to invite you to enroll them in the 10-week Grade Transformation Program, where they're going to learn the key concepts, skills, and strategies to catapult their performance in assessments and exams. It's risk-free. They either achieve bigger and better results with a whole lot more confidence in 10 weeks, or we refund you in full. Just head over to www.rocksolidstudy.com/program, and I'll see you there.